Hello, everyone. It is me, Jordyn Smith, the voice and the astrologer behind this YouTube channel, Nonconformist Conscience, and also the webpage and all things social media. We have a beautiful week that I'm going to get into in just a second. But first, I want to remind everyone that my Taurus birthday special is running until this weekend. So you have a little less than a week if you are a Taurus who wants to book a session with me. This would be a great week to want to look at these energies that I'm about to speak about. If it's not your birthday month, it would still be a great week to come see me if you've been thinking about it, because the North Node is going to conjunct Mars is going to conjunct the North Node at the end of this week on the 19th. And this really is about breaking new ground and creating new patterns that we are desiring to do on soul levels. And so wherever this falls in your chart will give more information. And the things that are building up to this week really beautifully reflect this process that's wanting to come to fruition. So if you are a Taurus, you have about a week left to book the special. It's $75 to look at your natal chart to understand your evolutionary intention in this lifetime, what it is that you are desiring to do. And also I have 2 spots left for my karmic inheritance workshop. If you want to know more about that, there is a promo video on this channel that you can look up to see if you want to do that. If you want to take that 5-week workshop, I think that it is an amazing tool to understand for your own self-growth, evolution. And then also, if you are a practicing astrologer, to help other people when looking at their chart as well. So without further ado, let's talk about this week. So, as I said, at the end of the week on the 19th, Mars is going to meet up in the sky with the North Node. But before that occurs, today, on the 13th, we have quite a few dynamics taking place, and these energies are going to be felt throughout the week. The first one being that Uranus in the sign of Taurus is conjunct the Sun. Now, I want us to keep in mind that Uranus in Taurus is the ruler of Pluto in Aquarius, which is now retrograde. Pluto in Aquarius is literally about us liberating from what is known and familiar, anything that gets in the way of understanding ourselves on an individualistic level. Uranus and Taurus, I've said this for over a year now, and I will continue to say this. So if you don't like it, it is what it is. But Uranus and Taurus has been about transforming our inner relationship to self. Transformation is a Uranian, Aquarian, 11th house dynamic, and Taurus is about our inner relationship to self. But Uranus and Taurus is really this need through transit to liberate from anything that is blocking and preventing us from moving forwards. Anything that we have suppressed comes up during this time as a way to utilize it to liberate and jettison it from within the soul. So that way we can strengthen our inner relationship to self, and so that we can transform it. So with Uranus conjunct the Sun in the sign of Taurus, Uranus ruling Pluto, this is a brand new cycle underway of where we could be having more information that maybe we didn't realize was there, being seeded into our consciousness as a way to liberate from it. Anything that has been suppressed in the past, anything of a traumatic event. We all know that when we experience trauma, that we tend to, for self-preservation, Taurus, compartmentalize dynamics. And so if you've ever experienced trauma, there are things about that trauma that you don't remember. If you experience trauma at a young age, there are things that you won't remember at the age that you experienced it. I know with me and my siblings, and this is something that I hear clients talk about often, is yeah, we had this thing going on in our family, and the things that I remember, my sibling doesn't remember. And then there's things that my siblings remember that I don't remember because we will suppress it out of self-preservation. Self-preservation is a Taurus dynamic. So this new cycle with the sun, where we self-actualize, creatively self-actualize, dealing with our inner relationship to self, Taurus, is now in a new phase conjunction to Uranus and Taurus. There can be a lot of information this week that we're recalling, because remember that Uranus is our long-term memory. It is all of our subconscious memories held within, even from prior lifetimes, that really help to condition the reality that we're living in. We don't realize how much from even our prior lifetimes that those experiences condition the reality, this lifetime that we're in right now, where that gets projected on to the present moment. And so Uranus in this new phase conjunction to the sun, Uranus being the ruler of Pluto and Aquarius, really speaks to us coming to understand even more content that is needing to be jettisoned from within as a way to transform our relationship to self. So like I said, we can be recalling dynamics that maybe we couldn't recall from before. And essentially, it's because our souls are like, hey, you're ready. You've been doing all of this preparation. You've been consciously working with these energies. You've been following this evolutionary, growth cycle that we've been in. And now our consciousness is in such a place that it can have more of this information become seated into the forefront. That way we can utilize it and work with it to understand how this is affecting the present moment. Speaking of, Mars is not yet conjunct that north node yet. Mars is approaching in a balsamic phase to the north node, speaking to all of the old patterns that our soul is desiring to liberate from. So this new information that can be seeded into our consciousness during this week is really giving us awareness, Uranus, around how this correlates to these old patterns that we've been stuck in, these old cycles that are being recycled. And this is so we can act on our own soul desires to eliminate this dynamic of where we're projecting the past unbeknownst to ourselves onto the present moment. Any type of blocks that are keeping us and preventing us from moving forwards can really surface this week, so that way a liberation can occur. And what this does with Uranus conjunct the sun is it illuminates these dynamics, not only for liberation, but also to help us become even more self-reliant. We can have knowledge imparted into us from our souls, seeded into our consciousness. What was once subconscious now becomes conscious. These can be our own inner resources that help us to survive. So this can also be where we get to understand what are more of our inner resources that we're carrying from even prior life efforts that are meant to be utilized as a way to survive right now. Think about it. The more self-reliant we are and self-sufficient, the more of an opportunity we have to survive. And I'm not meaning, in this day and age with what's going on in the world, that kind of sounds scary, but just think of it even on a very temporal, mundane level. Even pulling in the ruler of Uranus, Venus and Taurus, who's also ruling that south node in Libra. Some of us could have been dependent upon others for our survival, and that has gone into adulthood. And now Uranus is here helping us understand all of these dynamics, so that way we can liberate from them. And that way we understand what it is that is our natural inner resources. The more that we're able to rely on ourselves, we know what we value, we know what we need, the more we're able to be self-sufficient, the better able we're able to survive And survival can also mean, on a very baseline, to have healthy self-esteem. Think about those who don't and how it's wreaked havoc on their life. And what it's done is it's prevented them from being self-sufficient, self-reliant, from understanding themselves, from feeling like they could survive. So there's so much that can be happening with this Uranus Sun conjunction. I know other astrologers call this a cazimi. A cazimi is whenever a planet is conjunct the sun. It happens once a year. And so we have two of these this week. We also have Jupiter conjunct the sun, which I will get to in a moment. So just remember that this Uranus in a new phase conjunction to the sun, there can be a lot of insight that comes around, oh my gosh, there was this block here that I didn't even realize was here. I've been experiencing Taurus, inertia. I haven't been knowing what action to take, and I feel like I feel stuck and paralyzed. And now Uranus is coming in like a jackhammer to blow that wide open. So that way we know what action to take, what we need to liberate from, what is creating a block within our life. The other dynamic I want to talk about is, as this is occurring, Venus is in a crescent sextile to Saturn and Pisces. Remembering that Venus is the ruler of Jupiter, Uranus, the sun, the south node. It's the ruler of so many things, right? Venus in Taurus is really having us put the brakes on other people right now and really going inward and internalizing what it is we need to internalize in order to become more self-sufficient, more self-reliant, to understand what our natural resources are, to fortify and strengthen our relationship to self. All of these things I've been talking about for weeks. So with Venus in a crescent sextile to Saturn, I want you to think back to January 13th. This is when Venus was conjunct Saturn and the sign of Pisces. What was coming up for you? What were you reflecting on that pertain to your ideals with relationships, your expectations, your values, your needs? This was meant to have a culmination. It was something was wanting to end for the new to begin. But within that ending occurring, Pisces, the balsamic kind of feel that Pisces has within it, things become timeless and universal. It means that a whole evolutionary cycle is wrapping up. And within that evolutionary cycle, we're understanding what needs to dissolve, and then we're understanding the wisdom, Saturn, that is timeless and universal in nature that we can then apply to ourselves, Venus. So Venus in a crescent sextile to Saturn now is having us to reflect on the middle of January. What were you learning? What were you coming to understand about what needed to be released, what needed to end, and what needed to begin? Whatever that wisdom is that you have gained from this time period is now asking to have a full integration and to be applied to our individual relationship to self, Taurus. This is because it is meant to become a natural inner resource from that wisdom that we have gained, okay? So definitely think about this. Also, understanding that the ruler of Saturn is Neptune, and it is at 29 degrees Pisces. It is at that anaretic degree, meaning that there are still things that are wanting to culminate dealing with how we have done relationships with other people, how we have inwardly related to ourselves. And so there can be a wellspring of information that comes up this week to be utilized consciously, to make correct judgment, to have discernment, to have wisdom, to become a inner resource, to transcend old limitations, to dissolve the old patterns that are wanting to dissolve during this week before Mars conjuncts that north node in a new phase. The other dynamic that I want to talk about that is going to be felt throughout this week, but is happening today as well, is Vesta is in the sign of Cancer and is squaring the nodal axis. All right. Vesta is associated with the signs of Virgo and Scorpio, meaning dynamics on a soul level that have to deal with self-improvement in a very overly generalized way is how I'm putting this. Vesta is about where we stoke that inner flame and devote ourselves to keeping this inner sacred flame alive. Vesta in the sign of Cancer is about, hey, we are humans and we are souls having a human experience, and the ways in which we evolve are through the emotional body. Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio. In order to strengthen our souls and to feel unified with that which we come from, we are needing to really tap into our emotionality. We are needing to keep stoking this inner sacred flame of self-discovering what our emotions are about. Some of us are needing to re-enter emotional fractures in order to heal them. And Vesta here says to keep doing it, keep after this. And with Vesta square, the nodal axis of North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra, we can be understanding where maybe we were seeking our emotional validation outside of ourselves. That would be Libra. And coming into an awareness about this, especially with Uranus conjunct the Sun at this time, understanding where this played a role in keeping us separate from really knowing and ourselves and inwardly relating in a healthy way. Taurus so much is about our feelings. Cancer is about our emotions. Our feelings are different than emotions. Feelings are the physical reaction that we get when we are confronted with some type of dynamic. I feel anxious. I feel sick to my stomach. I feel that my chest is hurting. All of these dynamics are tethered to some type of emotional dynamic that is wanting to be explored. And so there can be deep content this week that comes up around our patterns that stem from our emotional awareness. And with Vesta square the nodal axis and the resolution node, or what I like to call the point or place of determination, the place that we need to focus and be determined to focus to have a resolution, is that North Node in Aries. This is speaking to being courageous and looking at our emotional content right now. The things that surface this week could be uncomfortable, but they are things that become potion instead of poison. They are things that become alchemized within if we are willing to be courageous to go to the depths of our emotional reality. This is also speaking to the need to be independent. The North Node in Aries, to be courageous not only in looking inward at our emotional dynamics as they surface or as we're recalling certain dynamics with Uranus conjunct that Sun, but also to be fiercely independent and inwardly validating ourselves. No one is going to be able to heal you except for you. And that is Vesta squaring this North Node, with it being the point of determination. To be determined, to be courageous, to heal these old patterns that have affected us on an emotional and psychological level. And then as we do this, this pulls in the polarity. I just spit. I'm on one. It pulls in the polarity of Vesta and Cancer, Capricorn. An emotional maturation process is underway. And whenever we have the courage to explore our emotional dynamics, not only does emotional maturation come into play, but also the dynamic of cultivating deep emotional wisdom. This wisdom has the ability to help us to make correct judgment calls and to discern what those are later on down the road. This helps to perpetuate new patterns that are wanting to emerge as Mars approaches the North Node later this week in a new phase conjunction. Right now, as Vesta is square the nodal axis with that point of determination or resolution being the North Node, the North Node's ruler Mars is balsamic, it's culminating. So there are old patterns that are wanting to be released. And Vesta here says to devote ourselves to exploring this. It can be uncomfortable. Pluto is always going to be pulled into the mix, and Pluto is relentless and it wants to confront. Same with Scorpio in the 8th house. It wants to confront us. And so we could be confronted this week with our own emotional dynamics of where maybe we have externalized our validation or externalized our needs. And really, what that does not cultivate natural emotional security. It cultivates insecurity because we're dependent on someone else meeting this need for us. And the insecurity is that person could go away. And this is a week to really understand if these patterns are occurring in your own life and to be courageous in cultivating your own emotional security, because that can't be taken away. Once it's gleaned, it's not taken away. This is also with Vesta in Cancer, with the North Node being that point of determination or resolution, is we're not ever done on an emotional level. It's not that, oh, okay, I figured it out and that's that. No, Vesta here is saying there's more work to be done, and we've always got to keep this inner sacred flame alive. We're always in a state of becoming, and that's really reflected in the North Node in Aries being this resolution for Vesta and Cancer. We are in a perpetual state of becoming, and there's more things to explore about our emotional reality as a way to continue to emotionally mature, to become more emotionally secure, to be able to discern, to cultivate more wisdom that turns into inner resources. So I want us to keep that in mind. The other dynamic that's playing out this week, especially today, is Mercury is in Aries and is semi-sextile to Jupiter, and it's in a balsamic phase. Mercury today is at the degree it was whenever it entered its retrogradation back in April. After today, it's not going to be in its post shadow anymore. This really reflects that all of this information that we have been taking in Mercury throughout this period of Mercury's retrograde cycle, it going over the North Node, conjunct the North Node, it going over Chiron 3 times, is very much about all of the knowledge, all of the information that we've taken in during this time, throughout the eclipse, throughout the new moon and Taurus, is now meant to be applied to the here and now. And the semi-sextile in a balsamic phase to Jupiter, between Mercury and Jupiter, is really about what have you learned? What awareness have you come into that has affected your relationship to self? What awareness has shifted? What old beliefs stemming from old wounds have you come to understand? And now it's meant to take this information and to leave what doesn't, no longer resonates, and to take what's timeless in nature that can be applied to the here and now. Because on the 15th, Mercury is going to enter the sign of Taurus. And this is where we really get to apply this knowledge to our relationship to self to help strengthen and fortify it. This is a time where we are called to pump the brakes on the information that we're taking in from externalized sources, right? Mars in Aries was like all consuming. Oh my gosh, there's so much to learn. It wants to go, 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 go. And now Mercury in the sign of Taurus is bringing us back down to earth. What types of information can you now not only apply to yourself, but to use them as an inner resource to cultivate healthier self-esteem, more self-reliance? What do you want to learn more about yourself? This is a time period until June 2nd, I believe, that we are meant to really focus inward. This is really interesting to think about too, because Mercury has conjunct Chiron a few times. So our awareness around our wounds is now being asked to be applied to our relationship to self and to internalize it in a different way, to change the awareness on an ever deeper level. And to me, this also reflects that this can become an inner resource that's meant to be shared with others to become the wounded healer, right? Seeing as Mercury has been conjunct Chiron, has done 3 passes over it. So there's something here that's now wanting a full integration in order for it to be given out freely later on at the time whenever it's right, so that one can be that wounded healer for another. I understand what you're going through. I can relate. This is how I changed my awareness, and maybe you can help heal someone later on down the road. Right now, it's meant to be applied to self. That knowledge needs to have a full integration. We can't give what we don't have. And Mercury and Taurus is really about now applying this on an internal level. So on the 16th, Venus is going to be in a semi-sextile to Chiron in a new phase. To me, this really amplifies this, seeing as Venus is the ruler of Mercury now, since Mercury on the 15th will enter the sign of Taurus. This semi-sextile in a new phase, Venus to Chiron, is just segueing off of what I just spoke about. There's something here that's meant to be applied to self, stemming from our wounds and how our awareness has shifted and the knowledge that was created as a way to have a full integration, as a way to become more self-sufficient and self-reliant, as a way to inwardly validate oneself and to fortify our relationship to self. Then on the 18th, Jupiter and the Sun will conjunct in the sky in the sign of Taurus at 28 degrees. Some astrologers say that this is the luckiest day of the year, and that is because Jupiter is known as the Great Benefic. Here's the thing. I've talked about this before. In order to receive the Jupiterian gift, you have to let something else go first. So with Uranus earlier on in the week conjunct the Sun, and now Jupiter conjunct the Sun, there are old beliefs that need to be released in order for it to clear space for us to understand our personal truths on deeper levels. Jupiter conjunct the Sun is really about self-actualizing through expanding our relationship to self, through understanding what feels true and natural and authentic for each one of us. Jupiter is ruled by this Venus in the sign of Taurus. This is re-emphasized that we are in a time period of needing to really be in a deep internal process. And Jupiter conjunct the Sun in a new phase can start a brand new cycle of really honing our intuition through developing the inner resource of being able to tap into our intuition and to cultivate that as an inner resource through paying attention to our inner voice, our inner listening, our inner relatability. But there are old things that need to be released so expansion can come into play. And then on the 19th, Mars is going to meet up in the sky with the North Node. in a new phase conjunction. As this occurs, the moon is going to be in a new phase conjunction with the South Node in Libra. This to me, and I'm going to pull up this chart for you all. Really reflects, again, this is a Greenwich chart, so we can utilize the houses. I want us all to look at this. I'm going to break this down. It's EA. We're going to start with Pluto. Pluto in the 10th house in Aquarius retrograde. This is a time for us to review in order to resolve what we need to liberate from stemming from our conditioning. This is emphasized with the 10th house and Capricorn conditioning this. So a need to still self-reflect. Saturn rules this house on how we have structured our reality and the need to liberate from any type of man-made beliefs or philosophies that are not universal or timeless in nature. Pluto is ruled by Uranus, that is conjunct Venus in a new phase in the 12th house. So again, a need to release and culminate while starting something new. There is higher intelligence around what it is that we need to understand about ourselves. We can be recalling tons of information that, again, we had suppressed, that's been surfacing throughout this week during this time. And as we do this and we start a whole new evolutionary cycle with the North Node conjunct Mars, this is helping us to create new patterns pertaining to what it is that we're desiring to do. And to me, this speaks to liberating from any type of ideals or false beliefs that have been man-made or conditioned in nature. The need to cultivate and clear this out so new patterns can emerge as part of Mars conjunct this North Node. With the South Node being in Libra, ruled by Venus, conjunct Uranus, and the Moon in a new phase conjunction in the 6th house, we are meant to self-improve upon our relationship to self. This moon is in conjunct Venus. It is speaking to, and it's in a gibbous in conjunct, it is speaking to the need to self-improve. It's re-emphasized with the moon in the 6th house and then the gibbous in conjunct. To self-improve on our relationship to self by going and self-reflecting on all of the imbalances that have been created stemming from our emotional and psychological patterns. And with Mars in a new phase conjunction to that North Node, as we release and purge 6th house, these dynamics, we then get to break new ground to create new patterns that are wanting to emerge that can be more timeless in nature and are about strengthening our relationship to self and calling in healthier dynamics that are about harmonizing with life. But the North Node conjunct that Mars in a new phase is, yes, new patterns wanting to emerge through self-improving. The action that we take right now, I'm going to stop this share. The action that we take right now will give us feedback that will continue to help foster the self-improvement and more awareness with Venus conjunct Uranus, more awareness about our relationship to self will emerge for us to liberate from these old dynamics that have affected our sense of self-esteem, our survival, our self-sufficiency, our self-reliance. New values, new needs will be cultivated that are more in alignment with our authentic nature. And through understanding this and self-improving upon this by acting on this, these new patterns will emerge. And these new patterns will help us to cultivate more harmonization within life. So this is your forecast for this week. If you want to know how this is playing out for you in your chart, come see me. I absolutely feel honored whenever you guys come see me and you choose me to read your chart. I think that this week is profound. I think that, and I feel that there is so much information to be gleaned from this week when we're consciously utilizing this. I think for a lot of us, there's going to be so much information that surfaces about what it is to have healthier self-esteem, to be self-reliant, to emotionally validate ourselves. I think a lot of us feel like we're doing it, and we are, but there is a new cycle underway. So a new layer of this to be discovered. If you are someone who has felt like there have been so many recycled patterns, the knowledge that is gleaned from this week will help new patterns emerge that gives us so much new information to work with that can be so beneficial and healing this week. This is a week to manifest the hell out of some stuff. Uranus conjunct the sun and Jupiter conjunct the sun. I know for me, my own spiritual practice is going to be sitting outside by a fire and journaling and writing down what it is that I want to manifest, what I desire to experience this year that's going to help me to strengthen my relationship to self, to help me know myself in a way that I haven't known myself before. This is one of those weeks, is to do this, to cultivate this, to start this new pattern of self-development, to remember that the key in the doorway is always through our emotions. With Venus aspecting Saturn and Pisces, it's really reflecting that this inner doorway is always open. Jupiter conjunct the sun is going to be sextile to Neptune. There's so much guidance from on high that can be obtained and felt and truly felt this week. If you have been in this place of like, I feel stuck, I don't know what's going on, I feel like, what is the point? Or I don't know what it is. I feel like I've been working and I'm not getting anywhere. This is a week where revelations can happen, where you can feel like you have your guardian angels that are just like, keep going. Here's information. Your higher mind can really be opened up. And all it takes is you questioning and asking, what do I need to know? And show me in such a way that I can't deny it. This is one of those weeks. This is a week of profound change. And yet it can be a bit uncomfortable because we can be confronted with our own inner dynamics. And that's a humbling effect and induces humility. Because on some level, we all want to think that we're perfect. Like, I don't think I've ever met anyone in my life who hasn't wanted to obtain perfection and then has been confronted with that that's an illusion. And so we can even still have dissonance around that whenever we're confronted with something inside of us that maybe we didn't want to see before, maybe we didn't want to acknowledge. This is a week to really utilize that. And when we come to an understanding and an awareness about it, to see it for the gift that it is. That awareness permits so much self-growth. Again, there's so much Taurus energy that is really about connecting with our unique individuality, what feels authentic for us. Looking at all of these BS patterns that each one of us has. As Mars conjuncts that north node, a rebirth can start to happen. This is the week of, like, I was talking about this on the EA message board. This is a week of Neptune at 29 degrees, balsamic energy turning into new phase energy, Mars approaching that north node, about to enter a new phase. This is if you've experienced childbirth and you felt the pressure and the tension to like hunker down because a baby is crowning, this is a week where it feels like that. And as Mars passes over that north node, a rebirth happens, but it's not without going through the ring of fire first. And that is definitely this week. And that sounds scary, but if you've ever given birth, to my ladies out there that have, remember how good it feels once you push a baby out. It's like instantaneous release. I just birthed something. Ugh. That is what can happen this week. And so give yourselves grace, stay with it, be courageous in looking at your inner dynamics. Go into those places on an emotional level that you are scared shitless to go into because you're afraid that it's going to hurt. The only way through is to feel it and to experience it. If you are someone who is re-experiencing dynamics right now or feels like they're in crisis, I want you to know this. We typically experience crisis whenever we have given ultimate meaning to something outside of ourselves. And there is a recentering and a realignment process underway for you. And this is a week that can really help you understand the why of it all. But the need is to take accountability and responsibility for the choices that led you to the situation in the first place. I am someone who has a lot of Virgo dynamics, and that can be very hard to like look at sometimes. I also have a lot of Capricorn. But what happens whenever we understand that I chose this, I chose to re-experience this, not to suffer, but because I wanted to heal in this lifetime. Sometimes we re-experience crisis as a way to enter that emotional fracture. And that emotional fracture helps us understand the patterns that have precipitated this. And created this. And ultimately, it comes down to our own judgment and our own choices. And if we're about to break new ground and new patterns and new cycles are wanting to be birthed, you want to get to the bottom of this. And this is a week where the gifts of awareness and intuition and perception can be harnessed. And then understanding what it is you want to manifest for the rest of this year, dealing with your own healing journey. This is a beautiful week to do this. Come see me if you want to know what this is reflecting in your chart, what this is meaning for you. I would love to see you. I would feel very honored to. I love, love, love connecting with you guys. I just always want to show my appreciation. You guys have helped me make a career out of this. I feel so passionate about what I do, and it's because it's helped me so much. And I get to watch you guys who come see me do your work, and it is very beautiful to me to watch it in action. It gets me outside of myself. It helps me see that there's so much beauty in the world and that there are souls who are wanting to just get after it and go for it. And that is like the biggest gift ever, to be able to witness that. So I want you all to have a beautiful week. I will probably make some more videos this week. There is one video that I do want to upload and post this week, and it is, I've had many clients come to me recently with some really painful experiences that they have had dealing with other astrologers. And so I want to, because of my mental health background and because of me being an astrologer in general, I'm going to make a video going over the ethics of astrology. Because even if you don't come see me and you go see someone else, I want you to feel empowered with the information, and to be able to discern that this person is it, this person feels, I feel called to go see them. This feels good for me. But there are things within astrology that I have seen, I've experienced myself, and that those of you share with me. And so I just think that it's time. My Pluto and Scorpio in the 6th house and all my Capricorn really feels the need to post a video going over ethics within astrology. So be on the lookout for that. I am probably going to have another video talking about this week, breaking down one of these dynamics that I feel called to later on in the week. And I hope to see more of you. I opened up my Saturday in case anyone wants to book for this Saturday. If you don't, fine by me. But I did want to do that because I don't open up my Saturdays that often. And I just love doing this, and this week has me really jazzed, if you can't tell. And um, I can't wait to hear how this is being reflected in your life, even if it's just in the comments on this video. So let me know. I'm very curious. And I will see you all soon. Have a beautiful week and lots of growth and lots of love.